Hello everyone and welcome back to another video from North Eryri. It's an area of the national park that I haven't explored too much, so I thought today would be a perfect opportunity to change that. I'm at a place called Cwmsytradllyn, which is nestled in the valley below Moel Hebog, which is just behind me. This is a particular area of interest for me because there's a load of abandoned buildings that were all decommissioned during the slate industry at the start of the 20th century. Cwmsytradllyn was one of the biggest quarries in the area. The quarry works itself is just on the other side of this lake, and it was all decommissioned in 1871. It had a pretty short lifespan compared to some of the other slate quarries in the national park, such as Dinorwig, Blaenau Ffestiniog, and what that means is that this place is a little bit of a hidden gem. It's really quiet, there's not a lot here, but there are plenty of abandoned buildings to explore that would have been inhabited at the turn of the 20th century when the slate quarry was up and running. So today's mission is just to explore this area, go and have a look at some of these abandoned settlements, and hopefully through the photography in this video try and paint a picture of what it would have been like to live and work in this very remote part of the national park. It's a good sort of 4 hours until sunset, so there's plenty of time. I'm definitely not going to be short of light because there is not a cloud in the sky today, but hopefully that means that when the light gets a bit better we'll have some good photography potential. So as I mentioned, it's a good few hours before the good light, so I've given myself plenty of time to explore this area because, like I said, I've not been here before. I have no idea the scale of the place and where some of the interesting compositions may or may not be. So giving yourself time just gives you the best opportunity to come away with something that you are going to be happy with. And I think that's something that is important if you are exploring new locations. But second to that is you do need to give yourself options to be open to things that are outside of what you've planned. It's all very well and good looking at these places online and seeing compositions and seeing things that are of interest, but if you're just fixated on those very select few options, then there's the potential that you're going to come away empty-handed if it doesn't work out. So give yourself that ability to come to an area with open mind, with the ability to just see things from a fresh perspective and from an original perspective. And that's definitely what I'm going to try and do today. So this place just seems to go on and on and on back into the valley, and it's been great to come up from the lake. I've climbed up the fields following these kind of dry stone walls. There's plenty of styles and there's definitely tracks leading through these fields, so they are definitely ways that you can rightly explore, but I'm just not seeing too many things up this end that are kind of captivating my attention as much as some of those derelict buildings that were further down by the lakeshore. Now we've got Moel Hebog behind me looking quite magnificent in this kind of early evening light, and it's such a great mountain to photograph from this perspective because you get the dry stone walls leading all the way up to the summit, and if you photograph it from the Beth Gelert side it's just not quite the same perspective. But I'm going to try and grab a shot of it, but I don't think I'm going to be able to stay up here and get the light right on Moel Hebog, because if I do that it means I'm going to miss the opportunities to get the photos of the quarry buildings further down, and that is the reason that I came here. So I'm trying to stick to my mission statement as much as I can, but obviously in the last clip I was saying that it's good to be open-minded, so I am definitely open to shooting Moel Hebog. But I guess photographically, in terms of what's going to get me the most usable photos tonight, I think I'm going to have better luck down by the lake. So this is probably one to explore on another day in terms of going further down the valley. There's so much to see. It's really, really a fascinating place. But yeah, let's head back down, try and get a shot of good old Moel Hebog, and then yeah, there's some compositions that I saw earlier that I want to show you. So I've headed back down from the top stile where we were in the last clip, and I'm back kind of where I started, but the light is getting a little bit nicer now, so it's just a waiting game really. There are a few compositions here that I did see earlier that I've already kind of scouted out, which I will show you in a minute, but now it's just a case of sort of like taking it easy and just going to eat a sandwich. So this first composition is one that I spotted on my way back down to the wall where I just did that last clip, and it's just this old decrepit looking shed, but this is kind of a shot within a shot, because although it doesn't look like much at the moment, really the light was the thing that sort of caught my eye, because the nice side light just lighting up the kind of face of that wall to the right is just really pleasing. But if you then follow the path around, you can see the road that sort of leads in the sort of left hand side of the frame, and then if you zoom all the way back, you can actually see the Cwmsytradllyn slate mill in the background, which is a really historically significant part of this valley, because it's the best example of a slate mill anywhere in the national park. Now the second composition is one that I saw again earlier in the day, but I was just waiting for the light to illuminate the tree in a really pleasing way, and thankfully at this kind of low angle of the sun, we're getting all of that lovely side light on the right hand side of the tree. The main thing in this composition was just getting the separation between the main tree growing out of the wall and the larger tree in the background. I didn't want any of the leaves to intersect any of those points, and this is shot on the Sony 20mm f1.8, so again it's a wide enough field of view that you get the exaggeration of the tree, it's nice and dominant in the frame, but you still get that separation between the foreground and background elements, which I thought turned out quite nice. Now the next few images are a variation on the same subject. So it's this old, I guess what would have been like the Slate Master's house. It's the biggest structure or the biggest building in this valley that I've seen, and I wanted to get it from a few different angles. So this is a good example because you get, again, the really nice light at this time of day, but I quite like the reflection of the tree that you can see on the wall. It tells a bit more of a story about what is in the surrounding landscape. It's not necessarily just a photo of a derelict building. This next one was, again, trying to sort of paint a picture of, again, some of the other environmental aspects and using that as a subject within the frame. So in this instance, it's the dry stone wall that is a bit of a leading line up to the house. This valley is littered with dry stone walls, as you would have seen from earlier clips in this video, and I just wanted to make sure that that was captured. This was shot at around 28mm, and the same with this next shot is again shot at 28mm, and again it's using the dry stone wall as a bit of a leading line. The light was a little bit tricky here. The dynamic range is sort of quite high just because I'm stood in the shadows, but you know, where the subject is, the house is in that kind of bright sunlight. So again, just trying to get that balance between the two elements of lights was quite challenging, but let me know which of those three images you like the best. So this is pretty much the last of the light now. We're into the sort of last 20 minutes before the sun just kind of disappeared over a ridge to the right of the frame. But what it did do is it illuminated this tree in a really, really nice way where it becomes a very dominant feature of this composition. It's the sort of positioning of the tree on the left hand side with those branches kind of pointing almost towards the derelict building on the, I guess, the right hand side. I'm guessing this was some kind of garden because this tree had a dry stone wall that was pretty much, you know, fallen over by this point, but you can tell that it was kind of cordoning it off, and I thought this might make a good snapshot for a environmental shot of what a home in this particular valley would have looked like. So this is the last shot, and it's basically telling the story of the quarry and the village all in one. So I was waiting for the light to hit the quarry in the background, which I just about managed to catch, but I wanted to include some of the silhouettes of the buildings in the village just to kind of tell the story of what that particular valley was used for. You know, it was a settlement for workers and families who were directly occupying that quarry, and I think this shot is a really nice example to demonstrate that point. Separation was a little bit difficult. I couldn't get any higher than this. I would have ideally liked that roof of the right hand side triangle to not penetrate the galleries of the quarry. It would have been nice to have that separation, but it just wasn't quite possible. But I'm still really happy with the light in this image. I think that is the main sort of focal point, and that's the element that I wanted to really nail, and I think I pretty much achieved that as best as I could. What a beautiful evening. Honestly, it's such a privilege to be here, especially to have this place all to myself right now. It's, you know, granted a weekday, but it's so rare to find areas in this national park that aren't, you know, flooded with tourists and photographers and hikers, and coming somewhere like this where the only thing I can hear right now is some pretty leery sheep up the hill really is just a treat. And yes, photographically, I think today wasn't the best day, but that being said, I think it's important to, I guess, remember that for future visits. I think when you're trying to portray the hardship and the difficulty in living in a particular place like this, you know, somewhere where life would have been so difficult, I feel like trying to capture that in a photo on a, you know, balmy summer's evening in June with bright blue skies and glorious sunshine, you know, it doesn't necessarily portray the mood that I would want to have in these photos. But I'm still very, very glad that I came, because if anything, this has been a great scouting exercise. I've been able to scale the side of this hill. I can see where there are future potential locations to explore if I was going to make a little bit of a project out of this location. And it just means that there's some good things here that I can come back and revisit. Definitely in the autumn, definitely on a rainy day. And I wanted to cap off this video just by explaining a slightly new direction that I myself am looking to go in as a photographer. And it's not necessarily about the subject matter. I'm still going to be making videos about the outdoors, but I'm less interested in taking single images that at sort of face value look perfectly nice. I'm now going to be more focused on creating a body of work or a collection of images from any location that I go to visit. And I think for me, it just enables you to be more creative. I think that creativity is the thing that inspires me, and especially if I'm in a creative rut, the idea of kind of like thinking outside of the box or just giving yourself a challenge and a mission statement when you go out to shoot can be really, really beneficial. And it's not to say that I have been feeling uninspired. That's definitely not the case, but I want to be able to come back home from, you know, excursions or kind of adventures like this and have a gallery of images that kind of tell the story of what that location was like. And I feel like it's locations like this which, you know, have such a rich history and are steeped in cultural significance that would lend themselves so well to a photography project or to a gallery where you can focus on the bigger landscape. You can focus on some of the details of some of these, you know, abandoned houses, and you can really start to stitch all of these different images together, hand that to a person, and they would get a really great sense of what that location is all about. And I feel you don't get that as much with single images. You know, you're trying to cram as much information into that one composition, whether that is the light and certain elements in the landscape and a big vista but a small detail. And, you know, at that point you're just creating a really busy scene that might be quite effective. But I think having a gallery of images that are a little bit more specific, I think they do a better job. So that's going to be my plan moving forward. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Like I said, it's something that I want to come out and do more of. I want to try and document some more locations around the Eryri National Park because it's one of my favourite places in the whole world. So if you've enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't already. Ring the bell to get notified when new videos go live. New videos are posted or uploaded every Thursday. So hopefully I will see you guys on the next one. And until then, go outside and keep taking photos.